And now, the SleepHawk Worldwide Podcast. Here are your hosts, Brandon Staton and Tyler Hansbrough.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the SleepHawk Worldwide Podcast. We sound like we're in the garage here because in a Geek Squad we ain't. But here we are. We're all in one place. We're in the tournament. We're in the nest. Ain't been in there in a while. And we got our old friend back here, Brian Rosenthal. So, got a lot to get into, guys. But we're going to talk about tournament. We're going to talk about how Carolina got there. We're going to talk about Jaylen Withers. We're going to talk about Bubba Cunningham. We're going to talk about upsets. We're going to talk about Duke. We talk about everything. Everything March Madness is probably the favorite episode of the year. Welcome to the show. What do you think, Big Hawk?
Sleep, first of all, it's great to be back in the nest. St. Patrick's Day.
Forgot all about that. You guys
got my green. I brought my green shoes. Obviously,
I got my.
It's a rare day that Rosenthal's dressed up. He's got the turtleneck. I'm a big turtleneck guy too, but it's quarter zip maybe. No, I mean, you know what? We're all excited. Everyone thought maybe we weren't going to get in, including myself. But you know what? Here we are. A lot of Carolina fans are really excited, and it's good to hear. And also, it's kind of reversed my motivation, or kind of like giving me a little bit of life, because I didn't realize how many people would be this excited to be one of the first four teams in.
The last four. The last team.
The last four.
Like, everybody's either excited or they're absolutely pissed. Got a ton of that to get into. Brian, thanks for joining us, man. I don't even know where to start. It's like the whole thing is so, because I had my story already written out. And I was like, you know what? We're going to be the last four in, or we're going to be the first four out. And what did Tyler say all year long? We kept digging ourselves holes that we couldn't get out of. We did it against Duke. We did it against everybody. Like, the thing, and I'm going to get into this, but I was like, the story's already written. We just missed the tournament because we dug ourselves a hole that we couldn't get out of. And I'll be damned if they didn't make it in and ruin my whole thing. So, anyway, what are you, a State guy or Duke guy?
State. I mean, clearly,
sorry guys,
we're not going to talk about State this year.
It's a house divided.
I'm part of a house divided here in my own home. Going back to Carolina, I live in Chapel Hill. Excited for my friends. I think the brand of Carolina is a big deal to have in this NCAA tournament. I think if you look at what have you done for me lately, Carolina's record, clearly since Valentine's Day, is one of the best of all the bubble teams. So obviously deeper dive coming up here on the pod of why Carolina should be in the tournament. But they have a path. They have a great path here. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah. There's a lot of people think we can get a couple W's. I'm going to be honest, dude. I'm at that age where the bracket just starts to stress me out. I get there, sit there, and I don't even really maybe do a bracket challenge anymore. I mean, I'll fill one out, but then take it to Vegas, do the opposite, probably leave a winner. All right, let's start where everybody started. Like, Carolina, last team in the tournament. A lot of people up in arms. I mean, this is on every podcast. This is on Pat McAfee, Stephen A. talking about his abomination of. I used to like Stephen A. But he done ran afoul of LeBron, and now he's run afoul of my boys. So, you know what? We've turned over a new leaf in terms of our language rating here on SleepHawk Worldwide, but y'all know what I'm thinking about Stephen A. Got nothing to do with that guy. Heels are in, period. Like, how they got there, whatever. But Big Hawk, what are your thoughts? Did they deserve to get in? The big two are West Virginia and Indiana. I know you know the breakdown. I'm just,
Well, Sleep, first of all, I'll give you guys my thought. I think the media had kind of built a narrative that UNC didn't deserve to be into the tournament. I felt like a lot of people just they kept building that narrative. And even myself, I bought into it. I was like, we don't have the quad one wins to really justify a good resume to get into the tournament. But then when I would look and sort the data and look into it and a lot of the metrics that the NCAA selection committee uses, I'd always think to myself, we're above these bubble teams. Like, believe it or not, we're in a better position. If you were to ask me of all the bubble teams and you just didn't put a name and you put down the breakdown of what the selection committee said they're basing resumes and what they value, if you didn't put UNC's name beside what we did compared to those other bubbles teams, you would pick UNC's resume over the other bubble teams. Mm-hmm. And from what I understood, the committee used basically 7 metrics to kind of decide and figure out who's going to get into the tournament. And when it's all said and done, and you look at those metrics, UNC was first in 4 and second the other 2s. And the quad 1s weren't quite there, but to me, they were ahead in a lot of these metrics that the committee uses. You look at the net rankings, okay? You've got Indiana, 54. Then you have, let me pull up ours. Do I have that right?
You kept doing that all year. That's, we were consistently like in 30s or 40s. Yeah. And I was always surprised because to me, it's like, look, to me, the net ranking is who are the 68 best teams? All right. And of course, you got some of these small conferences that are getting in. So I feel like what the net ranking is supposed to be is kind of like a track meet. Who's the best individual player that wasn't a conference champion? Yeah. And then there's your ins and there's your outs.
Let me say this about Carolina. I mean, they held serve against all of the bad teams.
Yeah.
They beat them. They suffered one bad loss at the buzzer at home against the Cardinals Stanford. That is a case you cannot make for IU and West Virginia. So I look at Carolina and I say to myself, yes, this argument that has been displayed over the last several weeks about the lack of quad 1 wins, it's hard to argue that. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt. You can't argue that. Mm-hmm. 1 and 12. But the bad losses are not there. They took care of business in the ACC, dominating the bottom feeders. And again, I go back to Indiana. Lost to some bad Big Ten teams. West Virginia lost to some bad Big 12 teams. What have you done for me lately? Carolina has answered the call. West Virginia losing first round to CU was a very bad loss. The number 16 seed in the Big 12 tournament was Colorado. So I don't have a dog in the fight, but I do believe Carolina should be in this tournament. And I'm not going to make a massive argument for them, but I have no problem seeing them in Dayton tomorrow night.
Yeah, Sleep, and I'll build off that. You think Rosenthal's a Tar Heel the way he just laid out that argument. So jump on board for the tournament.
Hey.
I'll say this, Sleep. I think I have our net rankings here. But if you were to look at basically our last 10 games, okay, we're 8-2. Mm-hmm. And we've lost twice to Duke, which you can make an argument is the best team in the country right now. Now, obviously in the ACC tournament, without Cooper Flag, a lot of Tar Heel fans out there, we thought, this is our chance. This is going to be our big win. We're going to run to the selection committee with this big dub. We're going to put ourselves in conference championship position. But we didn't do that. But
it was our chance.
Yeah,
and we damn near did it.
That's true. And of all the bubble teams, if you look at their last 10 games, we by far had the best record. I think even some of them were 5-5. Mm-hmm. Not great records, kind of limping into the tournament. Also, you look at a team like Indiana; they had some massive, big time blowouts in quad one, almost 30-point blowouts. And Indiana's a team that has no-showed on a lot of big stages. You never know what you're really going to get with them. They've been very inconsistent. I'm not saying the Tar Heels showed up.
They beat the daylights out of us a couple years ago, and that was a big game. But you're right. Other than that, I feel absolutely with you.
A no-show game against an ACC team was Louisville. I think Indiana went to that game maybe a 4.5, 5.5 point favor, maybe even a little bit higher, and they got beat down against Louisville. I think Indiana, to me, is a less of a compelling argument than West Virginia.
And I was trying to pull this up quickly, but ESPN literally got so many things on their website that I'll never find. But we kept saying that all year, right? Which was, hey, we were, look, let's face it, man. For a big portion of the year, we were just looking for silver linings as Carolina fans. Yeah. And one of those silver linings is like, hey, who were the close losses? I mean, we played a lot of
Kansas lost to one at Florence.
Florida and Charlotte.
Yep,
Florida.
When that game was in the Spectrum,
wasn't that the one we won?
Lost to Florida.
Lost. We had a last second shot to win.
You know, and look, here's the other thing, and I know this doesn't technically matter, but we beat Memphis in that exhibition. That exhibition. And it's funny because when that happened, I asked Tyler, I was like, does that matter? Like, so that question kind of is in the back of my mind because, dude, they did beat Memphis, and it's an exhibition. I get it, fine. Yeah. And this is the other thing with I think it was with West Virginia. A lot of their big wins came so early in the season.
Yep.
And that's just, to me, it's like, when do you want a team to be good? You want to be good in the beginning, or you want to be – I mean, because Carolina over the last, 5-6 years, there's been plenty of times we were great, early in the season, and it did not end well. So, I don't know. I get it 100%. But let's come back to that. Let's talk more about Duke game, because that's the other big storyline that's buried here is Jaylen Withers, the lane violation. I think a younger me would have been like heated that they even made that call. But then I watched the replay. I'm like, it's the right call. Hard not to make that one. When everybody's just pointing at him. What do you think of that play? And I don't know, like, how do you even piece that together?
I'll start because I've been involved with so many basketball games. And first of all, I want to say I respect Jaylen Withers going to the media afterwards, answering the media's questions, and not just putting his clothes on, running out of the locker room. Okay, he owned it and went to the media. Obviously, he felt bad about it. And hopefully this will motivate him and make him more, focused for the tournament because, let's just say he started that ACC tournament. He hit 7 threes. And there's been some games where we've kind of had to check our eyesight to make sure that's Jaylen Withers making those. He's started to play, he's found his confidence, found his rhythm. But then he always has kind of like those little setbacks or those moments that like we've kind of seen those flashes, and it happened on the biggest stage. And I know what, in my opinion, I'm not looking at what he said, just playing the games, I felt like he was trying to get the Duke players to jump in the lane to get them called for a violation. And the problem with that is, you really only do that if, you're the team on the defensive end of that. You don't do it to your own guy at the free throw line because it messes him up. And also, no one's really talking about Lubin made the free throw.
Yeah, exactly.
Would have sent it possibly into overtime and given us a shot. It's one of the most head-scratching plays I've ever witnessed in the sport. And I don't like to say that, but listen, it is. You can't do that. You got to be more disciplined. And when I watched the game, I thought to myself, this is why those little things are kind of the reason why we get close enough, but we don't ever get over that edge. And I thought it was just, I've never seen him or anybody on the team try to do that. And why would you do that in that situation late in the game with everything on the line? I just felt like he had a little lapse there, but hopefully as a team we can learn from that and we can be more disciplined going forward. But that was a massive mistake, Sleep.
Yeah, and I thought, the team responded well. I appreciated and respected Hubert standing there with him. It's like, I think we were just talking before we started about Chris Webber calling timeout you didn't have, like things like that. Like those are heat of the moment, like justifiable things. This one was like just a straight up boneheaded play. And I like Jaylen Withers. I don't, I'm not saying that like, it's just like, what? Huh? But and then you realize like there's a human element. I'm 41 years old, like so it's hard for me to be like critical of the kid. Like just things that happen in young kids playing college basketball. To your point, we're just not a team that can beat ourselves. And in that game, I think there's a lot of Carolina haters out there that would have taken a lot of pleasure in sort of blaming that for us not making the tournament. So I'm kind of glad that it went the other way for his sake.
Well, how lucky is Withers to now put that behind, because in some way it's irrelevant. Mm-hmm. They're in the tournament. Chris Webber cannot put that away because his career ended that night in New Orleans, calling the timeout that wasn't there, which led to the conclusion of that game. They were done on a technical foul. So, I mean, listen, this kid, I feel bad for the kid, and I think he has a tremendous opportunity to do something in the sense of NCAA tournament to make up for it. I've never seen anything like that before as someone who's watched basketball religiously for all my life. And I don't know how to explain it. I don't know the technique behind being at the free throw line and waiting for a rebound, but good on Withers for having another shot here. And I think what we saw against Notre Dame proves to me that this kid has a lot of talent and a lot of moxie. Yeah. 7 for 10 from downtown in the ACC tournament. So
here's what I'll say. I thought the rule was, and maybe it's an NBA rule, and maybe I'm just making it up. I thought the rule was very similar to like an offside in football, where as long as you're back outside of the lane when the ball is released, you're good. Yeah. So I was like yelling at the TV, and I'm quite frankly, like if that's not the rule, it should be. But
I think you would have players stepping in trying to throw off the shooter.
That's fair. But you do see that happen all the time in the NBA. But it's less about like a purposeful thing and more about just guys like. I mean, you watch guys that step in the lane because they're ready to run back down to the other end of the floor. So it was at first I was like, how could they call that? But then I guess I'm one of those people where, since the whole sentiment was like, how could they not call it? I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'm wrong.
Sleep, when I saw it was an obvious call.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's got to call that. Yeah. And they slowed it down. I was like, how could you not? Like, it wasn't a small, it was a massive. Everyone saw it. I was like,
there was enough time for dudes on the line to start pointing at him before Lubin let go of the ball.
Do you think it was just the lack of confidence he had in Lubin? I mean, is that penetrating through his head?
I thought he was trying to. I thought watching the game, he tried to overthink the situation.
Okay.
And, a lot of times as athletes, you're always like, oh, what can I do?
For sure.
Just do what you've always done, but do it with effort and have confidence. But I will say this, Sleep. Jaylen Withers, does he deserve to be criticized? I don't care. He's going to be criticized. Yeah. That's not the way it works. And, I'm not big into, he shouldn't be. Yeah, players should be criticized. If you play at UNC, you should be you should know that people are going to be critical of your play and your mistakes. And you can't look too much into that. And you've got to be able to stay within yourself and stay focused, because that's not going to go away. And I think we're not really doing him a favor. Everyone thinks that we have to, like, hey, it's okay. No, you made a mistake. Learn from it. Move on. Don't pay too much attention to what everyone else is saying.
And I think that's the one segue into, we'll get into in a second, the team and the tournament. But that's the one thing about this team all year long that, a couple years ago, I watched Caleb Love play in the whatever conference they're in, championship. And I couldn't help but think, like, man, I miss that guy. Like, I mean, he has evolved. I don't know where he projects in the NBA draft, but, like, watching him play, he has so much poise. He has so much control. Like, he's a great player. And I've always liked – he's one of my favorite Tar Heels, man. Like, he gave us a gift that we can never repay him for. But it made me think that, like, even though this team has had so many struggles, I don't understand how we get behind the way we get behind. But there was that whole dynamic while he was here that was weird. And the chemistry, we talked about it a lot. Like, the team seemed to like each other, but the on-court chemistry wasn't there. Here, it doesn't even really feel like there's no on-court chemistry. It's just like this team at times just can't make shots at all, right? But my point there is, like, even though this happened, the team sort of rallied around him and everything, and, like, I don't know. Like, if you're going into March, you got a guy like R.J. Davis that if he just flips a switch, like, it changes everything. And you got a team that sort of seems to, like, not. I'm almost frustrated by the fact that they don't get more pissed, but they seem just so even keel. So it'll be really interesting to see how they bounce back. So we'll get into their play in the tournament, but I think before we even sort of preview the San Diego State game, we have to talk about the chatter about Bubba Cunningham and how he's the head of the committee. He's athletics director at Carolina. There's financial people are pointing at everything. Mm-hmm. How much money he gets paid if Carolina gets in. I'm sure he's super worried about that. But money's money. And there was it was so, like, I just thought it was amazing that right there on CBS they were ready with Bubba Cunningham and that other guy to just walk him out there and explain things. And I thought that said something. It was just like, pretty interesting that they were that ready. It's almost as if, like, hey, here's the deal. We're going to let Carolina in, and then Bubba, you and this guy, you need to go do damage control, right? I don't know. What did you think of that, Tyler?
I'll say
just
this.
Bubba.
I don't think Bubba's not the person to influence anybody. Knowing him and going off of the interactions that I've had and what I think about, I think he's too much of a rule book person to actually do something like that. Me myself, if I was Bubba, would I do? Absolutely. And also, I will say that's the type of AD I want at my university.
Right, man.
I want somebody in there, and Bubba's taking some criticism. But if I were to find out Bubba did have an influence, respect.
Yeah.
But I do not think he did, and I don't think he would do anything to jeopardize being part of the selection committee. Right. Because I think if something, something like that, will haunt you for the rest of, follow you around.
And it also requires complacency from everybody else whose other conferences are represented and all that sort of stuff. What do you think?
I mean, in this day and age of leakage and social media, it would have already been figured out that Bubba rigged this situation.
Yeah.
I think his integrity, and as Tyler alluded to, there is no way he's jeopardizing his space on the NCAA committee as the chair. That's a very prestigious honor. And, of course, being the AD of Carolina, just to see Carolina find its way to Dayton, Ohio, there's no way. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I think that the committee voted Carolina in fair and square, and there's nothing more to it. I mean,
Sleep. I want to say I hope the West Virginia does find a way to take the NCAA to court and investigate why they that would be the most interesting process.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love a good conspiracy theory. Yeah. There's a lot of good ones. Did we land on the moon? I wasn't there. Did Bubba Cunningham have an influence? I wasn't there. But here's the thing. I've met Bubba Cunningham in passing, like he wouldn't know me from apple butter, okay? But he is the type of guy that fits Carolina. You meet him, he says hello, he's nice. He's not this sort of, I'm above the fray because of who I am. I think the world of him from the view I have, which is as a fan. I think he's been great for the university. I mean, the Bill Belichick hire, whoever gets the credit for that, I got no idea. But I mean, you're the AD, so you got something to do with it. Yep. You know what I mean? And ultimately, I think that time and time again, he's, just carried himself in the school with a really good reputation and good on him. Because the other thing you don't want is an AD that's going to say, hey, look, guys, it's going to look bad. I understand. Not our best year. He could have easily done that too, and said, hey, look, there's an argument, good one to be made, that we shouldn't be here. So, it could have gone the other way,
And I would ask the question, Bubba removed himself when UNC was being discussed. Did you remove yourself when the other bubble teams were being discussed? Because I know I'm like, hey, I'm the guys. I'm here. Yeah, I don't know.
It didn't really impress me that much. I mean, the whole thing is so dumb anyway. Like, because they expand it from 64 to 68. to prevent this problem. They're talking about taking it from 64-8 to whatever, like 8. You just always
going to
be
a problem. Yeah.
We can't let everybody in. And the committee did say that if Memphis didn't win their conference tournament, if they would have lost to UAB, we would not be in the tournament.
Yeah,
that's 100% right.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before, and you covered it all. Like I lost track of all the stars that had to align, but they did. And if some of these teams had won, we wouldn't be there.
I think Bubba's concern right now is not whether or not Carolina is going to underachieve in football once again, but to get better at pickleball. Because there's a strong rumor in Chapel Hill, he's just not
ain't cutting it.
He's a solid pickleball player.
Oh, you think so?
Oh,
He can play?
I wouldn't throw him in the ring with you or
A couple other
some
guys.
of the other elites that we have.
Guys, how do I get started?
You got a long path, man.
Huh?
You got a long path.
You're going to be a journeyman.
Yeah.
Listen, buddy.
I mean, you ready?
You lucky that we've changed our tune, man, on this language here, dude. So sleep dog, I flip the switch, dude. I lose 40 pounds.
The NCAA tournament means nothing as far as getting heated compared to pickleball.
I mean, should I go out there and win the North Hills Club Championship?
First of all,
that ain't happening.
If you're
you don't think it'll happen? You don't think? All right.
Plus 2,000.
Plus 2,000.
Plus 2,000.
I can't win it this year. Like, give me some.
Plus 2,000, 2026. Go ahead.
I'm with it. It takes a long time. There's going to be some young tennis guys involved in that one.
I am 41. Is there no age group? I guess you.
No, I mean, that's my problem. Because I'm old.
I mean, don't judge a book by its cover with pickleball.
We ain't allowed to talk about them. Sorry. I got to get in it, man. I got to get in it anyway. I don't want to sidetrack.
It's addicting.
Yeah, it's addicting. Yeah, we have.
What the hell else were we going to talk about?
Sorry to sidetrack that, everyone, but that's
so the tournament.
Bubba's big concern. Go ahead.
I don't want to forget to preview the game. We got to win to get in.
Yeah,
sort of thing. San Diego State. I know Kawhi Leonard went there.
He did.
Pretty sure LaDainian Tomlinson went there.
No, he went to TCU. Yep.
Who was it that went there back in the day? I'm going to Rick.
Marshall Falk.
Marshall Falk.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Marshall.
Hell of a player.
He's a good player.
Coach at Colorado now, I believe. Running backs coach under Deion Sanders.
I heard about that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Prime time.
Unbelievable.
Hard to believe he didn't take Dallas' job. Okay, so they were pretty good a couple years. Weren't they an older team a couple years ago?
National championship appearance.
That's right.
Lost to UConn.
Yeah.
Mensa and Johnson front court. Both playing in the NBA. Not the same team this year.
No.
A lot smaller. Great matchup for Carolina. The books have Carolina as a 3.5-point favorite. I mean, this is going to be very. Listen, to your point, if Carolina turns it over early, starts off slow, they're going to be in trouble. San Diego State's a good team. It's not a bad conference. The Mountain West top 5 is, probably comparable, somewhat comparable to the ACC. Obviously, Clemson and Duke are going to be vastly better than New Mexico and Louisville as well, But listen, they bowed out early in their conference tournament, lost to Boise, but this is a team that beat Houston, the number 4 team in the country. This is a team that took care of business against Creighton this year. I think it's a good matchup for Carolina, and I do think Carolina is going to win this game. Mm-hmm. But I think San Diego State is a team that is not going to hurt Carolina as many teams have we seen all year with a big team, a big front court. So, in my opinion, this is the right play. Take Carolina.
Yeah, and so, there's a few things that Carolina has working for them. First of all, we cannot complain about who we're playing or, what the situation. Listen, we're in the tournament, okay? Yeah. We're not going to start, this ain't the time. We got to quick turn around. Listen, we play Tuesday. If we win Tuesday, we don't play again until Friday. That's a good break.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great setup for us. Mm-hmm. So we really can't complain about that. I will say the most concerning thing is I always think that teams that do well in the tournament are teams that can win in dirty games. And what I mean by that is they have an ability to take, what they do on the road, like hard-nosed defense. They lock teams down. They really get after you. They hold teams to 60 points. But with that said, they're not a big team. They're not a good rebounding team. which we struggle with. We struggle against big rebounding teams. And when you look at it, and the other thing that we have going our way is their big man, the 7-footer, Magoon Guelph. If I said that wrong,
I think you nailed it.
Just ignore it.
Good as I'm going to get.
Who is the Mountain West Player of the Year, has been out the last 5 games and is probably not going to be at full strength or maybe playing limited minutes in this game. So I think that's good. But also, I always say I think the time change may have something to do with this, and the fact that they had to travel all the way from San Diego to Dayton is going to make a difference. But I've said this all year. Listen, we can evaluate the other team and look at who we're playing and how we match up. If we start the game with careless turnovers, lack of effort, and sleepwalk our way through tip, we should not. We can't do that. We've been our own worst enemy. We've got to show up from the start. We got to take care of the ball, and we got to know that San Diego State plays dirty. They're going to get after you defensively, and they're going to be physical, and we've got to go there with the mindset, okay, that's how they play. Okay, we're going to bring it from start to finish, and we're going to get this dub, and we're going to prove a lot of people wrong. And, we win this game. We play Friday, I think at 2-something against Ole Miss, which Ole Miss doesn't have a big man. Now, Chris Beard does a great job. Guys, we could win 2 games in the tournament, and all this talk about whether we should be in or not and all this controversy, we could end it right there and have the last laugh. But, yeah, that's what I'm excited about. Sleep. We'll see.
I think we got a path, man. I think it's crazy, but it could happen. Stranger things have happened for sure. But you got to win them. You got to win the ones that are in front of you. Tournament wide here. Let's spend some time thinking about who are upsets, and what are we looking for in this tournament? So one, I do think. Let me just say this. So everybody would call us homers because we said Carolina should have gotten in. I think until about maybe a week ago, I would have said Auburn all day long, number 1 seed. It's awful hard for me to say Duke should have 1 seed, man. I mean, they're scary good. It's funny because I'm watching all these, and everybody's got them in the Final Four, but nobody's got them winning really, which kind of bothers me because I wish everybody would chalk them up that way. I just feel like there's a chance. But what matchups, Big Hawk, are you looking forward to? And maybe Seth Davis, man. I was listening to this in a group chat yesterday. I think he picked every damn underseeded team to win so that he could just come in and when 3 or 4 upsets happen and just say he called it. But what are some legitimate favorites that are in trouble?
Yeah, so what I'm looking at here, some interesting matchups that I see. Kansas, Arkansas. To me, those are both teams that had high expectations. Very good coaches, Bill Self, John Calipari, both primetime guys going at it in the first round. And those are both teams that I kind of felt like preseason and season-wide, I felt like they had the talent. They just didn't all click and they weren't peaking or playing well. That's going to be an interesting matchup. And if the stars do align, St. John's takes care of business, which more than likely they will. I think Kansas is going to advance. I think Kansas is going to beat St. John's. And also my dark horse, and I know that I'm getting a little ahead here. I just want to preview this. Missouri, Kansas, huge rivals. People forget how big of a rivalry that is. I grew up in Missouri. It's massive. They haven't had, since Missouri switched conferences and all this new, they haven't had some games. The rivalry's getting back together. This would be a massive moment, and that would be a massive stage to have that game. I'm looking at that one. The other one I'm looking at is Sleep Dog, you mentioned it, and I love this setup. I love this possibility. Duke advancing. Arizona advancing. Caleb Love. Every Tar Heel
Dude, Caleb
Yeah,
Love
would love
will
to see that again.
smoke Duke if they get together. I'm telling you.
He's one of those. Caleb's one of those guys. You gotta love him. Same reasons you hate him as reasons you love him. He can give you 40. He can give you 40,
And
but he may take 80 shots. But he'll do it.
Yep.
He'll do it.
Yep.
If he catches fire, I'm looking at that. Yeah. So those are my most intriguing games and the way things could kind of break down. I'll just pass it over to Brian right after
BR.
this. Yeah, BR Rosenthal. Who's my dark horse? I actually think Missouri could be a little bit of a dark horse. They've had some big time wins. Dennis Gates has done a great job. Mark Mitchell, who a lot of Tar Heel fans will know, transferred from Duke.
Mm-hmm.
They're a big team. They have guys who embrace their role. The Bates kid can get hot. Multiple scoring threats, but they don't rely so much on shooting. And they have some bigs that come up that will mix it up. They're kind of my dark horse. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how Duke does, because I know everyone's saying Flags back, Cooper Flags. If he's at 100%, which I hope he is because he's such a talent, we're not going to see him in the tournament again because it'll be in the NBA. That's going to be interesting to me, see that situation. And also Duke's so young. They've kind of debunked my you can't win with young guys. Shire's done a great job. He's done it with freshmen all year. But when you do look at some of their losses, which there's not many, it's always been late game situations and trying to get a bucket in the game. They didn't come up with those, and that's how they lost.
They almost coughed up 24
So, and also my concern is they weren't tested that much in the ACC because it was such a down year. What are they going to do when they get really tested on that stage again? So that's going to be interesting. And since you ask it, I guess I'll just cover it all. Who's my the biggest upset? So if Alabama doesn't have Grant Nelson, I'm not too happy about that.
That's your team.
Yeah, listen.
Bama's
been my number one pick since I saw them in the Smith Center. I think they're very good.
They look good.
Yeah, and I really hope they do it because it actually makes me look good as well. So here's my upset. I think Iowa State's going to lose early. They're without one of their best players, and also their road record wasn't all that great. They have a great home winning record, but when they didn't take the show on the road too much. They're my main concern. I'm concerned about them without one of their best guards. So that would be kind of my upset. I also like. We'll get into my Final Four later, but I'll pass over to you. What are you looking forward to?
I'll tell you what. If Iowa State loses early, that means it could be the UNC.
I say we have that.
Tar Heels to advance to the Sweet 16. Listen, Zubi Ejiofor, St. John's versus his team, Kansas, the team that he played for last year, would be a fascinating matchup. I love St. John's. Lewis Jr. is incredible as Big East Player of the Year, well-deserved. Kansas, Arkansas, you mentioned it, by far to me the most intriguing matchup right now. Two coaches, I mean, that's incredible. Two coaches battled it out for the 2008 National Championship, KU versus Memphis. I love that matchup. I'm leaning Kansas, just smarter but yet underachieving. They are the smarter team. They are a little bit deeper than Arkansas. Give me KU over Arkansas and Louisville Creighton. That game played in the Bluegrass State. I mean, what an awful bracket for both of those teams to not only play each other and then who awaits Auburn. I mean, that is just a devastating draw for Louisville versus Creighton. I think the horses for Louisville, they really proved to me, I mean, Chucky Hepburn. Can you imagine if Wisconsin still had Chucky Hepburn, how good Wisconsin would be this year? They're already on the 3 line without him. Give me Louisville in a de facto home game against Creighton, but Kolbrenner is possibly the best player on the court when Louisville matches up against Creighton, but I trust Chucky and I trust the guard play of Louisville to get through against Creighton. That is a fascinating matchup to me. Upset, I think it's got to be the experienced backcourt of the Yale Bulldogs to take care of business and beat a Texas A&M team that is so hit or miss, a team that can beat Auburn by a dozen or so in College Station and just crap the bed against the teams like LSU and other not so great teams, but average teams in the SEC. I'm not going to throw a ton of money on the Yale money line, but believe me, I think that there's value there. Yale did it last year as a 13 seed against another SEC team when they beat Auburn, when Auburn was a 4 seed last year. So that to me is probably a team that I think has the best chance. I'm not sold on, as you mentioned, Drake, a darling, as an 11 seed to beat Mizzou. They didn't beat anybody this year, Drake. I mean, their best win was on a neutral against Vanderbilt. They beat FAU, who's not in the tournament. I think Bates is the difference maker there. Give me Mizzou to get through there. But I do have Texas Tech in the bottom half of the West region, and which I think is the toughest region. I mean, that is a gauntlet for every team that's competing. Last matchup sleep that I'm excited to see right here, about 5 miles from where we sit, is going to be UConn, Oklahoma. That is a hell of a matchup. And I'll tell you what, Florida has it coming for them, because I don't care who they play, whether it's in the second round or the third round, it is just going to be a gauntlet to get through the West. A team from Florida that probably is the best team in the country, the way they've been playing over the last week, is shipped out to San Francisco. That's not fair. Come on. Real quick, Colorado State, I mentioned this to Tyler earlier this evening. They are a 12 seed, and they are favored to win over a 5 seed in Memphis. I don't think I've ever seen that on a gambling ledger in the NCAA tournament, where 12 is a 2.5-point favorite against the 5. Trendy pick to take Colorado State. Give me Memphis on the flip side to win outright, and Memphis possibly getting to the Sweet 16. I would look forward to seeing Maryland versus Memphis. So that's my quick take. Big upset would be Yale over Texas A&M.
I like Yale. I don't follow. You guys are following this like damn analysts on here. BYU. BYU is interesting to me against VCU. Then they're going to get, by all intents and purposes, Wisconsin. I think they can take down Wisconsin. They're kind of. That's the thing about the tournament, right? You get a team that's good, and they're ostensibly like one win away from something big, right? So if BYU beats VCU, I don't think they can't beat Wisconsin. And now all of a sudden, yes, Alabama would be a heavy favorite, but all you got to do is kind of. You got to win the games to get there, right? But you can kind of see paths where things can break a team's way. I'm also really interested, given my man Big Hawk's bold predictions that Will Wade's going to take over at NC State to see this McNeese and Clemson. That is a pretty interesting storyline for a number of reasons to me. I think Kentucky, as much as I hate to say it, I think they're underseeded. But the two, not underseeded, but kind of flying under the radar, and then Georgia. I mean, Georgia was really good for a long time this season, and I'm losing them here. Gonzaga, Georgia Gonzaga game. That one's going to be pretty interesting to me. I like Memphis. There was one other that I was sort of looking at.
The Wolfpack of NC State. Not looking at that.
Yeah, I've been looking at them.
All right,
I'm looking for them.
Last two
out of the NIT.
First 4 out conference tournament.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
First 4 out of the first hour. I think they were out in the first 4 games of the year. But St. John's to me is, I think for me, BYU is the team where I'm they could shake people up a little bit. I think nobody's going to call Georgia this huge Cinderella or upset story. To me, I think there's 2 teams that aren't getting a lot of credit. One is Michigan State. I just think they're Michigan State. They're kind of roll your sleeves up type team. But I love Rick Pitino, dude. I mean,
How do you not?
I mean, how do you go in the beginning of the year and basically tell everybody in America, you talk about, we shouldn't put kid gloves on with Jaylen Withers kind of making this mistake. And wasn't it this season that Pitino was I don't even remember what he said, but he basically called his whole team idiots, and here they are. And I just think, man, he's got this sort of checkered past and all this sort of stuff, but guy's a basketball guy. Who cares? He's like the closest thing we will ever see again, and he's not this, but the closest thing I think we'll see to Bob Knight. And, given the fact that he just doesn't really pull any punches, and St. John's, it just seems like he's the perfect coach for St. John's. I don't know. It's crazy. I can see him going all the way. That's my long shot. But
it's your dark horse. I don't mind that. I'm with you.
2 seed is a dark horse, but
yeah. The compelling argument against St. John's is depth and shooting three, which they struggle with, but their defense is probably right there in the top 5 in this whole NCAA tournament. And they have 3 players that are going to probably be the better 3 players versus most of these teams out there. And I love St. John's. I just think they have a really tough draw. I mean, they are going to they are going to play KU or Arkansas. And then look who's waiting. I mean, Texas Tech, who is a gritty team, man. They have played some big-time games, won some big-time games. I just think St. John's and Florida, both of those teams from the same region, have a gauntlet to get through. And if you put St. John's somewhere else on this ledger, maybe I like them more, but I don't like them as much in the West. Yeah,
I agree. Patino, to me, Sleep, is kind of like a mafia boss.
Yeah, dude.
How
come on,
the guy dresses to the nines. He comes out there and he'll cuss you out. He'll get after you. He's Catholic, great. I love him. His argument, if he didn't leave Kentucky, would be the greatest college coach ever. I'm with you. I think the concern with St. John's is 3-point shooting, but also the Richmond kid. I know about the Louise kid. Everyone talks about him, but the Richmond kid can get you a bucket too. He can take people off the dribble. He's a big guard. He has skill, but he's a guy that gets you a bucket. So I like teams that have that, but they're in the toughest bracket by far. The team that no one's really talking about, which I think is in the advance, is Houston.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think Michigan State's one of those teams that's flying under the radar, and also no one's really giving them a lot of credit. But Izzo playing his style, playing winning basketball, not falling into analytics, and shooting low-quality 3-point shots. We're going to play defense. We're going to get layups, free throws, and we're going to rebound, and we're going to win. So I like teams like that in the tournament. That's a great call. I do like Houston. They're very similar. I just think that they're the hardest playing team in the country. I think that Calvin Sampson probably hasn't gotten the credit. They've been in the Big 12 for 2 years now. Just joined the conference. He's won the regular season. Those 2 years, just won the conference tournament. I always worry about teams winning a conference tournament and then going directly to the tournament. But Houston, to me, I believe in Houston. I do. I think they're a Final Four team. I'll jump into my Final Four since we're doing that. I'm just going to say I have Auburn playing Florida and Bama playing Houston, which it's kind of chalky.
I was going to say that literally, the whole tournament just feels kind of chalky, man. Yeah. Like it's top heavy, dude. So not to take your thunder, because you gave me the Final Four: Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Houston.
Yep.
Who you got going after that?
Bama, Auburn, and just kind of basically because of the big rivalry.
Iron Bowl.
When I saw this line in my bracket, I couldn't. I was like,
I love Houston until there's an opportunity.
Yeah, I love Houston. I really want Houston to win it. Yeah. I want them, but the situation's too big. It'd be too good of a storyline.
That'd be good. That'd be really, really good. What about you, BR?
I think if he doesn't do it this year as a 1 seed and get back to the Final Four, I would be so disappointed in Calvin Sampson. This is in my opinion, by far the easiest path to get to San Antonio. I give it to Houston. Tennessee is Tennessee their biggest threat. They match up extremely well against Tennessee. I have Houston getting through the Midwest. I have Duke. I think Duke has a pretty good path too to get through the East. I am not afraid of Wisconsin if somehow Grant Nelson is out, but if Grant Nelson is in, yes, Bama's going to give Duke some problems with matching up guard play for sure. And, of course, even the front court from Alabama can hang with the likes of Mallywatch and Cooper Flagg. I think Bama is the toughest 2 seed, and Duke certainly, because they're not the number 1 overall seed, got exposed, and they ended up with Bama on the 2 line. I think Auburn gets through the South. I think Sparty will make it to the regional final and succumb to what, in my opinion, will be too much depth in Auburn compared to Michigan State. And I have Florida. I think Florida's playing the best basketball with the best backcourt in the country. I think it's almost by a lot. I think Florida it by far has the best backcourt, a trio of guards that can play better than any other trio of guards. I have Auburn beating Florida, even though Florida has taken care of business against Auburn. I like Auburn here on a neutral, and I have Houston in Texas defeating Duke in the Final Four. And believe me, I'm filling out multiple brackets to lose money and to cripple my checking account. But this is the one I brought on to this podcast. And I'm going to have Auburn cut down the nets. And I'm Bruce Pearl, one of my favorite coaches of all time. What a job he did, getting Tennessee back to relevance several years ago. Now doing it at Auburn, which is a basketball school. Who would have ever thought that? Give me Auburn over Houston. Duke, as you mentioned for several weeks now on this podcast, Field of 68, just not tested enough. I think Houston can test them in San Antonio. When it's close, are these guys ready? Well, Houston's been battle-tested a lot more in the Big 12 and in non-conference play. Auburn over Houston, I'm not going to tell anybody to take that to the bank or to Vegas, but that's my championship prediction.
Give me Houston. Give me Duke. Give me St. John's. And I just think Auburn has been waffling a little too much down the stretch. Like, give me Michigan State there. Okay. So then you got Michigan State, St. John's. Then you got Houston, Duke. And then it brings me to a question for you, Big Hawk. Cooper Flagg, is there a better freshman since Carmelo?
I don't think so.
Because what scares me,
Kevin Durant, you can make.
Okay.
I don't think.
I agree.
I think that's one of the arguments that you could have. KD, he had unbelievable one season, but I think Cooper Flagg is this freshman year he impacts the game in a lot of different categories where KD was just an extremely electric scorer, so a lot of his play would have stood out more to the common basketball fan just watching because Kevin Durant is such a highlight player. He can score a lot of what Cooper Flagg, what he does is so special, isn't all that noticeable unless you look at how he impacts the game across the board.
And that's why I think John Shire is such a good coach with these such young teams because, look, I hate Cooper Flagg because he goes to Duke, but when he goes in and plays with Team USA and everybody's like, this kid's good, you got to kind of listen. And the reason I asked that question is because I'm trying to come up with any reason in my mind not to pick Duke to win the championship because I hate them. But part of me picks them because I hate them.
Yep.
Damn near. If I say the sun's gonna come up tomorrow, y'all better pray that y'all gonna show up at the gates and they're gonna let you in because it might not. All right.
Yeah.
But I really did think that to myself is like, hey man, from what actually Zion was great. There's been other great Fred, but from what you actually did on the court, I'm not sure there's a better player since Carmelo. And of course, Carmelo basically, a lot of his legacy started where, he won a national championship in Syracuse. So, so give me Duke St. John's and the hell with Duke, dude. St. John's going to beat them. You gotta love that. Duke going down there.
All right.
I do think that Duke is a huge contender, and I think they're going to get there, but ain't no way in hell I'm picking them. So, I think that's my story, and I'll stick to it. That's just 9:53, boys. We got old JK's back here. Game 3. Nobody cares.
No, I'm pumped for it.
Yeah, we might just stay here and watch it until 4 a.m. Carolina plays 9:10.
Late game.
All right, guys.
This is late for me.
Espresso. This is practice. This is our practice round. 2 nights in a row. Sleep Dog's going to be up past midnight. But happy for it. You got anything else?
I would say the greatest day in sports.
I mean, anything besides that?
No. That's it. I mean, just enjoy it. I mean, like, just spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Betting on games, and have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Need anything else? But anything else, dude?
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Oh, we're looking for stay safe?
Yeah.
You want to stay safe? That's his thing.
Yeah, it's our.
He's a joke, yeah.
It's Fauci approved.